President Kenyatta, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Very nice to have you here. And you are here to celebrate the 70th year of the Commonwealth.
That's right.
Kenya has been a long-standing member. I want to know what you make of the controversy, while you are here, of a very harsh immigration deportation action that is threatening to deport some of the members of the Commonwealth who came over in the 50s after the war at the invitation of the British government to rebuild this place. And some of your fellow Commonwealth countries, particularly Caribbeans, are finding some very unfriendly deportation notices.
I believe that there is need for all of us across the board to recognize that we need, one another. And the most important thing is, these people, unlike current immigration, which one would understand if there was a push towards that direction, actually, as you've said, came here at the invitation of the British government to help support and develop this country in line with our partnership as part of the Commonwealth. So it's a bit depressing, I must be honest, and I appreciate the kind of steps that Theresa May is taking towards calming down that whole situation, and I hope that they, just as we in Kenya, post-colonial period, we started off very clearly that those who were of British national, who decided that they wanted to remain in Kenya and be Kenyans, we gave them that option.
What do you make of the current Trump administration, particularly the comments that President Trump made about immigration from Africa, using a profanity for some of the countries, and about his policy of aid and development to Africa?
Again, I say that some of these comments are unfortunate. And, the reaction that many of us took, and we were very clear that we hope that those words were not really words that are representative of American society, a society that itself has been developed and grew and built, on the basis of immigration. We have had, as Kenya, for example, a very good, long-standing partnership with the United States. We have a lot of Kenyans who have contributed immensely in very many fields in the United States. And we are looking to see how we can deepen that partnership. And one of the things that I must admit is quite troubling is how we see today a growing tendency towards isolationism, moving away from globalization, which has enabled many countries in the West to reach the levels of development that they have, and now constraining it when it comes to the African continent, and not understanding that it is through deeper partnerships, deeper engagement, that maybe some of the problem migration that is occurring would stop occurring. It's some of the actions sometimes that are taken towards certain countries and towards certain parts of the world that actually encourage this. And the way is not just to put up a big wall and shut people out. We live in Kenya, as you know, on a very troublesome border with Somalia. But yet, at the same time, we acknowledge that we can't just wake up one morning and close the border, because these are real people. These are people with human suffering. And we have accommodated many, many hundreds of thousands of refugees, despite the fact that one of the serious security challenges come from that country. But we have to recognize that the answer to these problems is by working together, not by shutting people out.
So with that in mind, everything you've just said, and knowing that President Trump, almost in the first days after his inauguration, talked about a very different kind of American relationship with Africa, a much more transactional relationship. If it's good for us, we'll help. We'll do business deals, we'll do those kinds of things, but not necessarily the development aid that has been traditional. Do you worry do you feel you're getting enough investment, even under this new paradigm from the United States?
Well, he's talking about encouraging investment. We are keen, we are looking forward to that investment. That investment helps provide jobs, helps create opportunities, especially for our young people who probably would be the ones who would be most susceptible to migration. So that is a quid pro quo. It works both ways. But at the end of the day, diplomacy is not just about those hard transactional items. It's also about the soft things, about being able to understand what are the core issues that concern people, what are the core issues that are creating problems. And we need to also be able to deal with some of those issues. We can't just push them aside and brush them under the carpet. It's about investment, it's about trade, but it is also about promoting certain ideals that we all share as democracies.
Let's talk about the politics in your country. It's been a crazy, turbulent year, a lot of difficulties, an election that was nullified, and then the opposition leader pulled out of the second round, and then you were declared the winner eventually, and here you are, re-elected a second time. But it didn't come without a lot of pain on many, many levels. What can you say first and foremost to the parents of the people who were killed in the election violence, who still to this day, despite your handshake with the opposition leader, Mr. Odinga, feel that they have not had accountability, that their kids were not criminals in the streets and didn't deserve to die?
The first thing I'll say is that nobody celebrates death of any kind. And one of the things that we must also be clear about is that it is very clear that, yes, indeed, there were unfortunate incidences, and some of those unfortunate incidences were actually actively instigated by certain individuals for political end. And if I was to assess the situation that happened, as unfortunate as those who lost their lives did lose their lives, we are nowhere near, and Kenya has come a long way from the problems that we experienced in 2010, when it was basically almost all-out war. We need just to continue to mature to a level where we must accept that competitive politics does not mean enmity, just opposing ideas.
Before I dig down more into that, I just want to know, for the parents' sake, do you, as president of Kenya, offer an apology to the parents of the innocent dead?
I abhor all loss of life, and to all those who were hurt on both sides of the political divide. As far as I'm concerned, we have no responsibility for those, given the actions that were taken. But as a parent myself, I feel for them, I sympathize with them, and I give them my assurance that I will do everything that is in my power to ensure that this kind of thing never happens again, and make available all channels to ensure that anybody who lost life or property is availed a channel to get justice. That I put on the table.
So now let's talk about the election, which was incredibly contested. You're saying all the right things about competitive politics and to be able to actually contest elections without violence, without censorship, without taking the media and television stations off the air. Presumably you agree with that as well.
We've got to be very clear. The only time during that entire period that the media was shut down, and it wasn't the media. Kenya is a country that has over 70 stations operating, including CNN. Over 70. Only 3 media houses were shut down. And this is after a detailed discussion prior to when the shutdown occurred with all those media houses, with all of us agreeing with our legal people that what they wanted to air was tantamount to treason. Them agreeing, them proceeding to air, and we said, on that basis, those who do air that particular program will be shut down in accordance with our laws.
Of course,
and we
all this
proceeded
happened
to do exactly that for that one single occasion.
In that case, are you saying that this will not happen again? Because a free press is the basis of a democracy.
As we have always said, free press, and there is no country with a freer press. And I think CNN can stand to
because
verify
people did
that.
say that those 3 channels that were shut down were because they were broadcasting opposition rallies and protests
They
and
were
other
shut
such
down
things.
on a single day when Raila Odinga went and purported to swear himself in as President of the Republic of Kenya. That was the only day, and you can do your homework and check, the only day that they were shut down. And we said that those who are going to do that, this is going to be the action. And so they were all aware.
So fast forward, suddenly you and Raila Odinga are shaking hands and speaking like long-lost brothers. I mean, people were actually very, very surprised by that. And let me just quote for you some of the things that you said, that this marks a new beginning for the country, that we may differ politically, but you should, and we should unite as Kenyans for the sake of the country. Raila Odinga himself said, is that the reality is that we need to save our children from ourselves. That's pretty dramatic.
It's more or less in line with what I've been telling you, Christian.
But how did that happen from these pitched battles, removing television channels, you know, all of that?
Purely from the point of view, and I've always maintained that I am always ready and open for dialogue, for exchange, on the basis of what is in the best interest of the people of Kenya. And as far as I was concerned, the competitive politics were over. There is a government. We acknowledge that there is an opposition. And we said, and I said it very clearly, that I have no problem reaching out to find bipartisan solutions to the issues that affect us, to the problems that Kenyans have. We don't have the sole monopoly of all the right ideas and answers. We need to open ourselves up to constructive criticism as well as constructive engagement. And that was the offer.
One of the major issues, and it's a holdover from sort of colonial Victorian, is the issue of sexual preference in many African countries. In Kenya, to be gay, the LGBT community is illegal. They just want to have equal rights, the same privacy and equality as all other Kenyans do. Is that something that you aspire to for your country?
I want to be very clear, Christiana. I will not engage in a subject that is of no, it is not of any major importance to the people and the Republic of Kenya. This is not an issue, as you would want to put it, of human rights or this. This is an issue of society, of our own base as a culture, as a people, regardless of which community you come from. This is not acceptable. This is not agreeable. This is not about Uhuru Kenyatta saying yes or no. This is an issue that the people of Kenya themselves, who have bestowed upon themselves a constitution, right, after several years, have clearly stated that this is not a subject that they are willing to engage in, yeah, at this time and moment. In years to come, possibly long after I'm president, who knows? Maybe our society will have reached a stage where those are issues that people are willing, freely and open to discuss. I have to be honest with you. And that is the position that we have always maintained. Those are the laws that we have, and those are laws that are 100% supported by 99% of the Kenyan people, irregardless of where they come from.
So
it's a very
you're going to get yourself into trouble. Because what you've categorically just stated is that this is not an issue for us, for the Kenyan people,
yes.
And you don't think that the idea of their privacy, their equality, their rights is important.
This is,
but it's a global issue right now.
It's important to them where they are.
Why is it not
I am
important
saying
to you
that it
as
is
president
not
of the country?
Important to me as the leader of 49 million Kenyans. And after, if you want to ask me my personal opinion,
what is your personal opinion?
After I finish my process, I can talk about my personal opinion. But as the leader of the people of the Republic of Kenya, I represent that which our people are desirous to be. And I have no choice, but that is my position.
Would you publicly say that people who are LGBT, gay members of the Kenyan population should not be discriminated against, should not be violated, should not be abused?
No Kenyan should be abused, should be, mistreated in any particular. Every Kenyan is protected by law, every single Kenyan. But they also must recognize that their freedoms are also must be taken into the entire context of the society that they live in. Because this is not a question of governments accepting or not accepting. This is a question of society, right?
Currently, it's a legal process.
Yes. And that legal process is based on the society that you live in, and that's why laws are made. So I think that's all I have to say about that particular subject.
On that note, President Kenyatta, thank you very much for joining us.
As always, thank you.